And we're live, great. Welcome, Team Surface Preparation, to National Flooring Equipment's 2020 segment on shot blasting and the Apex Series shot blasters. Joining me today is Tom Griffin, and I'm Dave Bigham. We're going to talk about, like I said, the Apex shot blasting series, starting with the A95. We're going to discuss the A96 and the A97, and we're also going to do some live demonstrations for you guys on each piece of equipment. Tom?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here today. It's really great to actually be able to connect with you guys here with our virtual trade show. Just a quick mention, if you have any questions, feel free to chat. We've got someone monitoring those. They will answer them for you. And if you want to know anything about show specials, pricing, or anything like that, just go ahead and reach out. You could do a private chat or call the phone number on your screen. They'll be able to assist you on that, and everything you're seeing here today is available for sale either through us or through your distributor.
Everything's for sale, guys. Everything you see here and what you've seen this morning in the background, just give us a call. We'll make you a good deal. Get everybody rolling for 2021, which is everyone is excited about. So why are we talking about shot blasters? Is shot blasters still a thing? Shot blasters certainly are still a thing. Sorry. It's supposed to be on airplane mode, but obviously that's not working. So, sorry about that. We're talking about shot blasters, and why are shot blasters still such an exciting product? Shot blasters actually clean and profile in one easy step, which is fantastic. A lot of the world's moved to grinders, and that's great. There's a place for grinding and polishing out there. Certainly there's a market for that. But the market for shot blasting is never going to go away. You can't get a better profile than you can with a shot blaster. You get that mechanical bond because of the impacts per square inch with the steel shot that you're looking for. And the versatility of these machines, they're amazing. What you can do with them and how fast you can prep a surface, whether you're talking about an A95 where you're trying to do a quick two-car garage and put down an epoxy, or if you're talking about a large warehouse, if you want to do 2,000 square feet an hour, you can jump into this A97 and just rock and roll all day long. That's why I love shot blasting. And because National has such a fantastic engineering department, we've seen a lot of changes in shot blasters. A lot of other people have just been selling the same model for years. They haven't made any updates. They haven't made any changes. I hear the phrase all the time that a shot blaster is a shot blaster, but that's really not true with National. We've got all kinds of features and additions to the old technology that really helps the new operators. You want to talk about the A95, Tom, or?
Yeah, for sure. So the A95 is our small workhorse, as Dave was mentioning. This is great for doing a quick two-car garage. I've got a guy here in Denver that loves using this for doing all of his expansion joints in concrete because it cleans and profiles those joints right away. This guy is a 110 volt, 8-inch blaster. It is a manual walk behind. What makes this machine great and sets it apart from our competitors out there on the market is the large separation chamber, which separates all the silica dust from the shot media, the closed-faced blast wheel, which really gives a very good direction for the shot media as it flows through and really directs it towards the concrete. We also use a natural rebound plenum. What that means is that the machine doesn't have to work as hard and your dust collector doesn't have to work as hard to get that media and the silica dust back up in here into the separation chamber. A lot of the smaller blasters out there have a very sharp 45-degree bounce. That's not how things bounce. You don't see a ball bouncing that way. So ours are actually designed to use the natural rebound of the shot media.
Yeah, what Tom's saying is exactly correct, you guys. That's a huge point to be made, not to be just skipped over lightly as just a value prop point. The curved rebound plenum really helps the machine not drop shot and to increase your production because the shot blaster works off two basic principles. and those principles are rebound and vacuum. The way that rebound plenum's designed really helps with that, one of those principles. And there's lots of other features that Tom's going to tell us about as well.
Well, and one of the other great things is that those main features increase the longevity of your machine. So the shot, you can run steel shot through this all day long, and the machine's going to last forever. When you introduce the silica dust into that, that's when you start to wear out your liners, you start to wear out your blast wheel. And because we have that larger separation chamber up here, you're actually removing more of that silica dust, so your individual components are going to last longer.
Right, the dust is sharp on the shots around and smooth, so it does very little damage to the machine. But once you turn it on concrete, it's really the dust that you're taking up that's doing the damage to the machine. So if we can do a better job of removing that quicker and faster and not recycling it through, that's what Tom's talking about. You just get longer life on your blast wheel. You get longer life on your liners as well. You just get better production because of the closed face blast wheel. All the shots directed right to the ground. It can't really escape and hit the inside of the machine like some of the other machines on the market. They cast their blast wheels with just a back and the fins on the front. Ours are actually enclosed. And we also balance our blast wheels. There's a lot of guys out there that they're just cutting corners at your cost. And I teach, if you bought a $200 tire, I'm pretty sure you'd tell the tire shop to balance that tire. Well, we feel the same way about a blast wheel. We feel it needs to be balanced because there's your performance from it spinning smoothly and being able to propel more shot to the surface quicker.
A couple other features on here. The handle is height adjustable, and the pins are actually attached to the machine. So especially if you're a rental customer or you're running crews where small pieces and parts typically tend to go missing, they are attached to the machine so that they won't go anywhere. Your controls are all located up here on the handle. I'm going to try and pull it around front so you guys can see it here. The blast motor and the shot valve are all actuated with this handle. By pulling up slightly, you engage the motor, and by pulling up all the way, you start the flow of the shot through the machine. You have a digital amp meter, which shows you how much production you're getting out of the machine. And you also have an hour counter here on the side.
Hey, Tom, why is that hour meter such a great thing on this A95 that nobody else in the industry seems to put on smaller machines? How does this hour meter really help our end users?
It's really going to help you in watching the life of your machine. So, we recommend changing the blast wheel roughly every 40 hours. So by having an hour meter there, you're actually going to be able to know when it's probably time to really start looking at some of those things.
It's a great feature that our engineering department managed to engineer into the design. It's fantastic. If you know when to inspect your liners in your blast wheel, the chance of you damaging your machine greatly decreases because you can keep track of it. Imagine having a car without an odometer. That would be crazy. You would never know when to change your oil. You would never know when to do any kind of service. So I'm super excited about that because I'm an old school guy. The old machines, they just didn't have that. So this is a feature that can really benefit you. It's a great value prop.
It's a great little machine, Dave.
Thanks, Tom.
All right.
So let me remind you guys, if you guys have questions about any of the units that we're going over, please live chat in, and we will answer your questions right away. One more thing about the A95.
Can you talk about amps when you're done?
Amps, correct, sure. On every machine, or do you want to talk about? Okay, so we're going to talk about the amps of each machine when we talk about the horsepower and the production. The A95 is capable of about 430 square feet of production per hour at a max rate, and it's designed to pull under 20 amps. You can actually adjust how much the shot valve is opening, and the more the shot valve opens, the more shot feeds to the wheel, the greater your amp draw. Because this is a 110 volt machine, chances are you're plugged into a outlet that has probably got a 20 amp breaker. So you want to keep that amp draw below 20 amps. And you could do that by adjusting how much the shot valve opens. Think of it like gas mileage. The more you put your foot into the gas, the more gas you burn. The more that the valve is open, the more shots you're feeding, the more amps you're pulling. So you can adjust that down or up for whatever the circumstance of the job site is. My Canadian friends have 15 amp breakers all across the country, so we adjust their machine so the valve opens a lot less, so it feeds a little less media. It decreases the production a little bit, but it keeps them from blowing their 15 amp breakers. Any questions, just let us know. The real brains of this virtual trade show is behind the camera. They're actually managing all the questions, and they've managed everything to get us to here. So I'd like to give a special thanks to them. This has been amazing. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk about the A96 in the Apex series, and then we're going to talk about the 97, and then we're actually going to run the equipment. Tom, do you want to talk about 96, or you want me to?
You can take it, and I'll ask some questions along the way.
So I'm super excited about this machine, and I'm going to tell you guys why I'm excited about this machine. It's got a couple of features that really stand out in the shot blasting world. One of them is the new design controls that are on this. If you guys see this in the camera, this actually turns. So as I go to turn the machine, my wrist stays a lot straighter. It's a lot easier to operate, which really equates at the end of the day to greater production. The other things that I really like is this is your trigger to go right on the front, just like a video game. You guys see I'm pulling the trigger and it's taken off. And then I've got my overdrive and my reverse buttons right here, right where I can reach them, which is great. So there's reverse and there's reverse overdrive, all within grasp of my hand. My speed control
There you go.
is right in front of it, also very easy to get to. The only thing that I need another hand for is to control the shot valve, and the only reason why I'm not opening it is because there's shot actually in the hopper, because we're going to run it here shortly for you guys to see it in action. Everybody wants to hear, but everybody wants to see something work, so we're going to get to that. This is also adjustable with height, so I can raise this up or lower it, and I can actually adjust the pitch of this. But the way this moves really helps the operator, because as I'm turning, I can spin like this instead of being the old-fashioned one where I'd be around like this. This is actually turning with me.
Now,
It's fantastic. Go ahead, Tom.
if you were going to come up to a high spot, can you raise this machine?
Absolutely. So even during operation while I'm holding my trigger, I can push down and clear a high spot to keep it moving if there was something impeding your progress across the floor, depending on your height adjustment. It also has a bar to protect this. I've had guys ask me, well, is this going to break? It's pretty well protected all the way around. If you're breaking it, chances are you've done something epic. It's not just going to bump something because it's protected really well. The A96 is a 230 volt single phase machine, so it's set up to pull less than 30 amps. It's got an amp meter that you can clearly see on the front of it. It's got a blast wheel start, a main power disconnect, and an emergency stop. What I like about this machine is the production rate of this is about just a shade under 900 square feet an hour. So for having a 5.3 horsepower motor, this thing cooks. But it's small and compact enough where I can maneuver it in small offices, hospital rooms, narrow hallways. There's lots of places that I can get this machine. And the fact that it's 230 volt single phase really helps in that lighter commercial, a little bit smaller job that people are looking for. Tom, do you want to talk to him about?
Well, I was going to say, what about cord management?
I'm going to try to turn this so you guys can see it a little bit. I don't know if you can see it for the panel, but it actually has a cord management system that's built in and a place for the hose. And there's one more super. Is it all right if I pull it in front of this one?
Do you want me to pull this one out of the way?
Sure. Nick, I don't know if you can get a shot of this, but so for years, guys, especially with the bigger blasters, and we've already talked a little bit about amps, is how do you adjust your amp draw? Some guys like me that are old school guys, we know how to adjust the insides of this. It can be complicated for a new guy in the market or for a new guy that you've hired. So I talk a lot about Nationals engineering. That's because I'm never cease to be amazed at their brilliance. They've actually incorporated this bolt right here that actually limits how far the shot valve opens or lets you increase how far it opens by just simply turning this bolt with any kind of adjustable wrench, crescent wrench, anything that you can find. It's super easy to adjust. So if you're pulling more than 30 amps and you're possibly going to trip a breaker, you can just run this bolt in, which allows the shot valve to open less. Or if you turned it on the job for some reason, you're only pulling 15 amps, you need to increase your production, you can actually turn this bolt out and allow the shot valve to open more. It increases the amp draw, but it also increases your production. Amazing job. I'm super excited by this because I can talk anybody on the phone through this on how to make an adjustment. Super simple, super exciting.
And I think that goes to show National's commitment to keeping our customers in the work. If you're having to constantly stop and make adjustments that take time, that takes you away, adds production time onto your job, and that takes money out of your pocket. So we really are committed to making life easier for when you guys are on the job site and doing the work.
I'm going to pull this around.
Where are you going to take this guy?
Yeah.
So Dave's going to move the A96 out of the way, and I think we'll pull the A97 over here to show you guys. Now, the two machines do look very similar to each other. Again, we have that great new handle design with the joystick controls. We've got speed control, forward, reverse, and overdrive all up here on the handle, which really just makes life so much simpler. Again, we've got the shot valve control over here, and we've got a box that's very similar with on-off. You've got a main power emergency stop. You've got the digital amp meter again, and your machine hours. This machine is 233 phase, and it's got a 10 horsepower motor. So you really step up in production with using this machine. It's a 10.5-inch blast width.
Yeah, you jump from an A96 to an A97, and you jump from 230 volt single phase to a more contractor style machine at 230 volt 3 phase, but your production jumps up to 2,000 square feet an hour. That's outstanding for a machine that's this compact, this small, and I can still get into some pretty narrow spots with a smaller machine. That's why I really like this machine. I get really excited about it. It has the same bolt design for the shot valve, which is another thing that you guys have no idea how amazing that is.
But I think what really sets the A97 apart is its ability to do edge work. Nobody loves being on their hands and knees with a grinder doing anything about the edges, and the A97 is designed with a sloping plenum right here. And I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but you can always invite one of us out in person.
It actually leans over to one side, so it leans away from the wall. You can't imagine how many calls I get. Hey, I think they dropped my National A97 shot blaster. They actually didn't drop it. It's designed to lean over to one side, because when you're edging along the wall, hey guys, what do we find on the walls? Outlets, fire pipes, you name it. It's always right there along the wall where you're trying to blast, so it keeps you away from it. Well, because of that leaning away design, it helps you just run right along that edge with this edging plate by removing just 2 bolts that removes the side magnet, and I can run right down the wall. And I'd say a majority of the time, I can get close enough to the wall where I don't have to use a 4.5-inch grinder or a 7.5-inch grinder, because the cove base is going to cover up whatever it is I didn't blast. It's very, very minimal.
Really sets this machine apart, really makes life easy, especially if you have a lot of walls or a lot of edge work to do.
Huge cost saving for you guys. And let me mention too, if you guys are trying to look at the cost per square foot to operate any of these machines, we can answer those questions. We have production charts for these machines. We can tell you how long your blast wheels and your liners are going to last, depending on what it is you're trying to do, what kind of CSP you're looking for. So feel free to reach out to us and let us educate you at a little bit further in depth than we are for a virtual trade show. We think of this as standing on the carpet, except for we're standing in our training facility in Denver, Colorado. So thanks for joining us. I think we're going to do a quick commercial.
Yep.
And bear with us, we'll be right back. And the purpose of the commercial is so we can move machines to a test area. So stand by and we will do some live demonstrations.
We'll be right back. See you shortly.
All right, guys, welcome back to National Flooring Equipment's live demonstration of the Apex Series Shot Blaster. Tom is going to run the A95 for us. Quick, brief overcap if you just joined us. This is a 110 volt manual machine that's capable of about 430 square feet of production per hour. We actually have the machine hooked up to its recommended vacuum, which is the National DL2000. It's about a 200 CFM dual motor vac. Tom?
Yep, I think we'll get going. I think it's going to be a little bit blurry on the screen, but you should have a little view of the digital amp meter as I rev up the machine and we get going.
All right, I'm going to turn on the vacuum. So I'm sure you guys can see this is nasty old warehouse concrete. This is our training center. You can see what a great job of profiling it did. And we talk a lot about the advantages of shop blasting. One of the great advantages that I always point out is that the shop blaster always preps into the joints and digs in the concrete or low spots or holes in the concrete. Because the shot is so small, it has so many impacts per square inch, you get a really, really clean profile where when you grind across the top of those holes, you literally just grind across the top of the holes in the joints where the blaster won't do that. It'll actually clean all that out.
So yeah, so here on the floor, and I don't know how far the screen's going back, we did have a couple pits and divots here, and they are beautifully clean. It's a very even profile across the full width of the blast. Obviously you're able to adjust that. So if you do notice that you're hitting heavier to the left or to the right, you are able to make those adjustments very easily on this machine so that you do have a nice even blast. But on a lot of smaller machines, you don't always get the most even of blast no matter what you do. And on the A95, it has been designed so that you get a beautiful even blast every time.
Another huge advantage, you guys, to the A95 is we tend to call it a companion machine. And why do we call it a companion machine? Because if this is the first machine you buy, as you grow and as you get bigger, what you'll find is the A95 can always be used in conjunction with the larger model machines on the job site. That's because the A95, you're always going to use it in small bathrooms and narrow hallways and closets and behind entry desks into buildings where you can't get the larger machines. It's fantastic.
And I actually was just talking with a customer earlier today. He bought an A95 from us simply to do expansion joint work in garages. And then he realized how much he prefers using that over his grinder. He's looking to start another crew and wants to just start out with another of our A95s as that companion machine like Dave was talking about. So even if it's not a companion to a bigger blaster, even a companion to a grinder, they all have their place, and it just makes life easier.
Fantastic.
So I think we'll switch out from the A95 now, and we're going to demo the A96.
And keep in mind, you guys, if you have questions, chat them in. We'll be glad to try to answer them.
Can you guys talk about the machine, how close you can get to the wall?
Yes.
So most machines, because of the side and the front magnets, and you also have liners inside, you're usually going to be a couple of inches from the wall with most of the Apex series machines. That is not true with the A97 because of the way the A97 leans to one side. It has an edging plate. I can get less than a half an inch from the wall. Yes. Up to, I'd say, with the plate on it, and once you remove the magnet, you're an eighth inch from the wall with a A97. And with the A95, you're probably anywhere between an inch and a half, depending on what's in the way on the wall. Any more questions?
And
That's great questions.
Yep.
Send them to us. Let us answer them so we can get you guys answers as we're talking, especially as we're running equipment. Thanks, Tom.
Yep, for sure. So we'll get this switched out right now. And Dave is getting set up, and while he's doing that, we're going to be running the A96 with our DL4000, which is a just over 300 CFM dust collector. What sets it apart from our DL3000 is that the 4000 has pass-through power. So if you're on a job site, it's not always easy to find multiple power sources, or on the flip side, you're having to pay for the time of an electrician to come out and wire breakers and wire circuits for you. And that's where the DL4000 really excels. It's got 230 volt three-phase power in, and then allows you to piggyback off of that either with 230 volt single phase or 230 volt three-phase while running the three individual motors. So it really makes a very flexible solution on a job site where multiple power options aren't available.
Can you guys talk about the shot really quick as a consumable? How far does it go? How often do you need to replace it? What the size options are?
Sure. shot actually ranges for portable shot blasters as small as 100 and 170, and you could actually use up to about 390 in a portable centrifugal wheel shot blasting machine. The most common is 280 and 330. 280 is a little bit smaller, so you get a little bit more impacts per square inch, so you get a little bit cleaner profile. 330 is a little bit larger, so it's kind of the go-to for a lot of contractors. Still hits pretty hard, and it increases your production. So I've been teaching for my entire career. The best thing you can do is if you can understand the size and how it impacts the surface, mix your shots about 50-50. And it's not like a recipe like if you put too much salt or sugar. It doesn't really matter, but the smaller shot will help you clean. The bigger shot will help you increase your production rates. It's pretty common. And if you took a 330 and ran it long enough, as the shot impacts the surface over and over, little pieces break off of it. And those little pieces that fracture off that round steel shot media, it gets sucked into the dust collector because it's light like the dust. That's part of the reason why we consider steel shot a consumable, because it does break down over time. You can also lose it in deep joints in old buildings or underneath existing racks or equipment in industrial sites where you can't reclaim it. Or if you're doing a driveway, if it's escaping out somewhere where you can't reclaim it, that also increases your usage. But I have a chart for every single machine, but I could tell you rule of thumb, a 50-pound bag of shot will do a minimum most of the time of about 2,000 square feet. The bigger machines, you're going to consume more shot faster because it's impacting the surface harder. And I actually have a chart, depending on what you're doing, kind of depends on how much shot you're using. I always go back to gas mileage. Your gas mileage for your car is going to be less in traffic in the city than it is if you're on the highway. That's how shot works. For some jobs, you're going to get a lot more square footage. And some jobs, you're going to get less square footage. And I have the ability, if you guys will chat in and request it, probably Nick Stefanski from marketing, he will email that to you straight away so you can get an idea of how long your blast wheel is going to last on different kinds of jobs, how long your liners are going to last, and how far your media is going to last. So we can provide that to you for each model machine if you put in a request. And right. keep the questions coming. We love it, you guys. It's awesome. Thanks for interacting. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the A96. This is a 5.3 horsepower, 230 volt single phase machine. And why is this a little bit different from the A95? Because this actually has a drive motor. So our shot pattern and how even our lines are going to be super consistent because I can control what I'm doing by the speed. And normally once I get my speed set where I like it, I can repeat that every time as I turn around and come back. On a normal job site, we'd start close to the dust collector and we'd move away. So our hoses and cords were kind of always behind us. But because of the limited space here and we have lots of demos going on and lots of flooring down, we're kind of doing it a little bit different. But the right way on a job site, if you guys decide to get a blaster and a vacuum, is always start your tool. It doesn't matter what your tool is, close to the vacuum, and work your way away from it. That way everything's always behind you and it'll speed you up quite a bit. We also normally tape our hoses and cords together, but because we're using the same vac and the same hose for multiple machines, we don't have them taped together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Tom to start the vacuum. I'm going to start the blast motor, and if Tom will wait just a second, I don't know how well you guys can hear with the microphones, but this is a soft start motor. So when I start this blast motor, it's going to start real slow, and it's going to just ramp up till it gets to full speed. That helps us not trip breakers in buildings, which is fantastic, or on generators. So I'm going to start this first so you guys can hopefully hear it. And then Tom's going to start the vacuum for us. All right, Tom. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
So I'm going to get my machine moving. I'm going to press the button.
So as Dave's going, he just opened the shot valve, and the shot's flowing out. Even though these machines are both 8 inches, the A95 and the A96, as Dave was talking about earlier, because of the production, the larger size of that motor, your production is going to be significantly greater with the A96. And as Dave was talking about just a little bit more on that being self-propelled versus the manual, you know, Dave and I are roughly the same height, but we've got some other guys around this office that are a lot taller. And if you've got two guys of different heights and even just different gaits running that manual machine, you're actually going to end up with a different blast profile every single time. And that's where having a self-propelled machine like the A96 really excels, because no matter the speed at which somebody walks or the height that they are, because the machine is self-propelled, you're always going to get that even blast pattern as long as they're going the same speed and pulling the same amperage.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for narrating why I was scooting along and dropping my microphone. Sorry about that, you guys. Not used to being mic'd up. Usually I just use my big mouth, but today I've actually got the support of a microphone. Hopefully you guys could hear all right. Do you guys want to run the 97 as well? So we've got the A97 all ready to go, and I kind of like to run it. It looks like the A96, but the production and the speed that I can move with it is greatly increased. So I'm just going to scoot this A96 out of the way, if you guys will be patient for just a second. And we're gonna run the A97. All right. Oh, thanks, Tom.
Yep. Ooh, that's moving slow. There we go.
That's probably good.
All right.
I'll just
Got
drive
that
this
up
over
there.
here, and then we'll just use the same hose.
Something that neither Dave or I talked about, which is actually one of the new big features on the A96 and the A97, and you'll see it as it comes into view, are the LED lights on the bottom of the machine. Most job sites are not very well lit, so having the ability to see the profile that you're producing when you're on a dark job site really adds value to these machines, and our engineers have put 4 very bright LED lights there on the bottom that really allow you to see the profile that you're making as you go.
You know, it's funny, you guys, it was probably 15, 20 years ago. I was on a job site, and a couple guys running the machine actually had 2 flashlights duct taped to the rebound plenum right here down onto the ground so they could see the profile that they were getting. And after all of those years of seeing these kind of contractor ingenious ideas, Nationals put together a fantastic engineering team which has incorporated LED lights which pull very little amps and work really, really well for us. So we're going to run the A97. We've got it hooked up to 230 volt 3-phase. I'm going to start the blast motor, and then Tom's going to turn on the vacuum, and we're going to make a pass and see what we come up with.
So with this machine, having that larger horsepower motor, the slight additional width on the blast pattern, just 2.5 inches wider, it really increases your productivity substantially.
Oop, run over my cord. So with the A97, you get way more production because of a 10 horsepower motor. Let me turn off the vac, guys.
Sorry, I'll turn it off, Dave.
So with a 10 horsepower motor, your production goes up increasingly for those high production jobs, which is really nice. So if you guys are looking for a bigger machine for bigger production, you definitely want to talk about this machine. We already talked about it leaning over and being able to edge with it, but the production rates on this machine really, really make a big difference. It's really nice to have. Questions?
I don't think people hear me when I'm asking this question either, so if you want to repeat it. But we had somebody ask if your shop blaster would take up the rubber that was left over from what was removed with the piping. Can you talk about what it will and won't do for removing and cleaning?
That's a great question. So a shop blaster works, we're going to go back just a little bit. The question was, will the shop blaster remove rubber? And guys ask all the time if it will remove glue. And we're going to back up just a little bit. A shop blaster works off two principles, rebound and vacuum. So the residue left by the rubber membrane, you could probably blast it off with a larger machine, probably not with a smaller one. Really thick glue, like I don't know if you guys could see that's on this warehouse floor. It's just going to bounce right off of it. It's not going to remove it. But if I scraped it first, typically rubber and glue, elastomeric coatings, those are all two-step processes. Typically they have to be either mostly scraped or scarified, and then you can go behind it and either grind or shop blast. Obviously shop blasting for me is quicker and faster. The consumable shot is cheaper. The cost per square foot with shop blasting is typically very low. Your labor rates go down because you can get through a job faster. It's part of the reason why I love shop blasting so much. But that's a great question. So the answer is depending on how well it's scraped. If it's scraped and there's just a thin residue, you can blast it off. If it's really thick, soft, gummy, or if the coating is real soft and resilient, the shop blaster won't work. If there's a coating, I've been telling guys for years, take a pocket knife and scrape some of it up. If you could take that piece of epoxy and touch the corners together and it doesn't break, you're going to struggle to blast it. If you go to bend that piece of epoxy and it breaks before the edges touch, you can blast it no problem because it's going to pulverize it. That's kind of the litmus test that you do just to kind of get a rule of thumb just to see if it's going to work. Any questions? Come on, send them our way. These are great questions. You have no idea. We love it because everybody gains from this. Tom, anything that we didn't talk about on the A97 that you want to touch point on?
You know, I think we've covered all of the machines really, really well. You know, these are built in America, and you have the best team behind the machines. You've got Dave, you've got myself, you have other people in the same position that I'm in. We're all available to be here for you guys as you're doing the work. So if you've got any questions, get them in. I know we're coming up on the end of our session. So we'll give it a couple more minutes, but I think the next session coming up is at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's going to be 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. on the West Coast. If we're talking about international time zones, I love you guys, but I'm not that good. So the next session coming up at 3 p.m. Mountain is our Walk Behind Scrapers, and we're going to be giving you tips for removing hardwood flooring, tile, and more.
And I wanted to point out one last thing, you guys, that we haven't talked about yet today. It's the pride that National takes in service after the sale. I don't know if any of you guys out there want to chat in, if you've had any experiences with me, but my phone's on 24/7, Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. We really do take pride in the fact that we care about our customers and that our customers are family. So it's more than just the equipment. It's the service after the sale, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot with me standing here in front of a machine, but when you have questions later on a job and it's late or it's a holiday, nobody else in the business does a better job of supporting our customers than National. And if anybody needs my cell phone number, chat in and I'll make sure that you guys have access to that. It's on literally 24/7. Unless I'm on an airplane, which guess what? Lately, there's been no airplanes in my future, so pretty much guaranteed you're going to get a hold of me. If I happen to be on the other line, I'll get right back to you, but that goes for tons of people in this company. But when it comes to equipment application, or if you're having a hiccup, or it was doing this and it's not doing this, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here for you guys, and I thank you for your business.
Well, thank you guys for your time. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day and hope to see you at our next session.